Hi everyone, this is our frequently missed questions explained video for chapter 4. Since not everybody has completed chapter 4 yet, I only have 3 questions that seem to be giving people problems. So this doesn't have as many questions as it usually does, but not everybody has completed it yet. So we're going to jump right in. This first question that we're going to look at is referring to a specific study on Olympic athletes. And in this study, they were looking at the response to losing in Olympic athletes, and they found that there was a nonverbal expression of shame, but only among certain individuals. And those individuals tended to be from highly individualistic cultures, such as the United States. And there's a lot of other individualistic cultures as well, as opposed to collectivistic cultures. Individualistic cultures don't stigmatize shame as much, so it would be beneficial for those people from individualistic cultures, such as the US, to not display shame when they lose. However, it's not as highly stigmatized in other cultures, so they wouldn't have decided to express, or they wouldn't have decided not to express shame right after they lost an event. So if you're looking at the direction of these two effects, if you're deciding between these two answers, you're definitely going to go with this top one right here with the star. That's the correct answer, because they're looking at how often these individualistic cultures displayed shame. And in the study, you can tell that it's not difficult to distinguish between the nonverbals. That's actually what drove the study, was that it was a very clear marker of nonverbals associated with pride. And then they did mention that they did study both blind athletes and sighted athletes, but there was no difference in the sighted athletes if they were looking at pictures. So there was no difference found between blind athletes and sighted athletes. Okay, so this next question is looking at political candidates and who's most likely to win a political election. So as you can recall from your reading, the face shape and face demeanor is actually a much more powerful predictor of who's going to win an election than their campaign or their campaign strategy, which is really interesting and a little bit scary. And actually, before they, just as a little fun fact to help this one maybe stick, before they started regulating this, it usually was the taller candidate that would win in presidential elections. And since that research has come out, they've actually made adjustments to when they're doing screen airtime, anything on TV with two candidates. They've made adjustments to their height so that they are approximately the same height. Okay, so if we're looking at the differences between who's going to be winning in a political election, our top choice here is Rudy, and that's because he's seen as cold, calculating, powerful personality. People who seem powerful are more likely to be put in power. These other options of people don't really have anything to do with power. And so they wouldn't be the best option for this political election question. Okay, so this last question was a little tricky for people. I think the problem is that the way they wrote it in the book is a little bit confusing. So I'm going to actually go through what all of this, what all was in the study and what everything meant. So the correct answer for this question is that we are more likely to make an internal attribution for a chosen action versus a forced action. So if you'll recall, our difference between internal and external attributions is that with an internal attribution, we're making a distinction about their personality, making some sort of assumption about their personality, how they usually are, things like hardworking or lazy or anything like that. So a personality, internal attribution. External attributions are when they're attributing whatever the action is to the situation. So maybe this person was frustrated because they were sitting in traffic, not because they are normally an angry person. So that's the correct answer here, but I'm going to go through what they actually meant by this study. So this is the graph from the book, and I think it kind of helps explain a little bit about what was going on here. So everybody read the same pro-Castro essay. And the conditions for the participants is some participants read a choice condition and some were in a no choice condition, meaning that they thought the author that wrote the essay that they read either had a choice or didn't have a choice in what they decided to write. So this would be basically like you're sitting down and reading a essay wrote by another student, and you thought that they didn't have any choice, like they were assigned to write an essay that felt this way. Well, people who were looking at the no choice essays actually really thought that those people who wrote the essays on some level did believe what they were writing. And that's kind of what this graph is showing here in essence. So this is kind of a confusing study, but the most important thing to remember here is that fundamental attribution error, that the way that we make internal attributions is very strong, and it's very hard to override it. And even if you think the person didn't have a choice in what they were doing, oftentimes that internal attribution will still be the one that you go with. Okay, so that is all of the questions I have time to go over today. And again, not all of the data is back from everybody taking the quizzes online. So that's all that we have time to cover for today, but this is the last one of these before it is time for your exam. So please contact me with any questions, or if there's any questions that you want me to go over, or maybe any strategies that you would like to know, please contact me and we will figure it out. All right, good luck on exam 1. Again, it is 100 minutes and 100 questions. So make sure that your notes are super organized and easy to read so that you can flip back and forth between those on the exam if you want to. Now, again, like I said at the beginning of the class, my advice is to study so that you don't have to use your notes on the exam. So study like you were doing it as a closed note in class exam, rather than relying on your notes to switch back and forth to.